I'm at the United Nations speaking on behalf of higher education. I've never heard a more frustrating term by vendors than disruptive technology. Who in their right mind would sell something that would purposely disrupt a company? Amazon has been using AI for years, and they have proven the more AI you use, the more employees you hire. So you'll have all kinds of people on the campus or your company who are having a love affair with AI, like it's going to change everything. Because there's nothing more detrimental as an IT director or a chief information officer to get your name in the newspaper that you had something happen that the world heard about because you weren't paying attention to the operations. And yet over here, people are saying, hey, you're not moving fast enough on AI.
How's it going? This is Jay and Michael, and we are here on the IT Directors Podcast. How's it going, Michael?
I'm having a great day. How are you, sir?
I am fantastic. Look, let me tell you, we have a special guest today. We have Mike Mathews. He is Vice President of Global Innovation Learning at Oral Roberts University.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, I'm excited about having Mike on. Mike, hey, welcome to the show. Mike, how are you doing?
Good. Glad to be on. Never been a better day to be a great IT director or CIO, but there's never been a worse day to be a mediocre one.
That's exactly. Look, and we're going to talk about some great things with you today around AI and challenges. And I know in your space, you have experienced this drastically. And just to your point, hey, AI can help us be better, and it can also magnify our inadequacies, right, in our field. So, man, we are so thankful you took time to join Michael and I today. And just to give our listeners and viewers a little bit of backstory, this is not in our official script. Michael doesn't know I'm talking about this, but hey, my man to my left used to work at Oral Roberts University, so he's known you for a long time. How long were you there, Michael?
Yeah, I was there about a decade. So got there in 2011 as a student, and then when I graduated, I started working there. I mean, I worked in several different departments, got to work with some awesome people. It's where I really stepped into higher ed on the back end of things and saw the big picture about how do you make something like a university, like Oral Roberts University, work.
Man, that is so great. And so just having that partnership with you guys, Mike, and Oral Roberts University, we're so thankful that you came on the show today. But Michael has shared so much with me about his time there. And I got to visit Oral Roberts when we were there in Tulsa about 2 weeks ago. So I kind of did a tour to campus. You were not available. We didn't want to bother you that day. But I came and so it was really awesome. So it was just really nice to have you on the show and to get to talk to you about AI and what colleges and universities are doing around it. So we appreciate your time today.
Oh, glad I could be a part.
Yeah, you want to go kick us off here, Mike?
Yeah, so I know our big topic here is AI in higher education and education overall. And this has been a topic that it's been around for years. It's picked up a lot of steam over the past 2 or 3 years. But based on working closely with you, Mike, I have seen firsthand how you've been a pioneer in this area for years. So if you wouldn't mind, kind of go ahead and share with us a little bit about what you want to talk about today.
Sure. Hey, so when I think about artificial intelligence, I call it the love affair, right? It's 2 years old, maybe in the way we see it today. Anyway, it's probably 20 years old, but the way we see it today is maybe 2 years. So you'll have all kinds of people on the campus or your company who are having a love affair with AI, like it's going to change everything, right? And that's great. But the reality is when you take a look at your operations, you've got a 40-year relationship with your ERP system. And you may have a 20-year relationship with the networking because that's roughly the networking Wi-Fi. And I'll be every single day, I have 50 salespeople bugging me. Hey, you got to look at the latest Wi-Fi. You got to look at the latest this. And I appreciate that. But the reality is that you've got to balance all three of these things all the time, right? Because there's nothing more detrimental as an IT director or a chief information officer to get your name in the newspaper that you had something happen that the world heard about because you weren't paying attention to the operations. And yet over here, people are saying, hey, you're not moving fast enough on AI. And so I love sharing the story of how finding not vendors that you like or vendors that are affordable, but you have to find vendors who are respected in their area of credibility. because there's too much at stake with all three of these balls in the air to risk anything. I want to do a lot of great stuff with AI, but I can't do it by risking cybersecurity or network or our ERP system. So it's a challenge, but yet it's doable if you got the right partners.
I really appreciate you bringing up the partnership aspect. We have been fortunate enough to be in that position where we've grown our partnership with you guys at Oral Roberts University. And that's given us a firsthand view of what's actually taking place and showing us different ways that we can add value. And also it's given us an appreciation for things that you're already doing. So as far as the AI rollout on your campus, could you share a little bit about what that looks like?
Sure. And so every board of trustees, whether it's a school district, whether it's a college or campus or a company, will have their board of trustees paying attention to what's happening in their industry. And they hear about a great operational improvement with AI or some cool things with AI. And so every 6 months, you as the IT leader have to have something that's cool, but also something that's operational, efficient, more so than it was the previous 6 months. And so you have to keep that going all the time. And at the same time, what if you're in the middle of building 6 new buildings, which Oral Roberts University is in the middle of? And what if all of a sudden that you have a new cloud modernization project happening at the same time, moving your whole ERP data set, if you would, into a SaaS model, software as a service model? And that's exactly what's happening at Oral Roberts University. We continue to grow. It feels good to grow. However, one bad move can cause a whole lot of problems. And so when we have all this, we are grateful that we have a couple key vendors who take care of classrooms, take care of the network, take care of things that there's no real bragging rights over, right? Because the truth is, as an IT leader, you have to be moving forward and showing that you, as the representative representing all IT, are moving forward. Hey, every one of our principals or presidents of a campus or CEOs are watching commercials during the soccer, during football, and they see all this cool stuff happening with ChatGPT, or they see something cool happening that looks like you can buy anything anywhere just with your smartphone. Not quite true in an enterprise environment. And so great leaders have to take the hit where they can and say, yeah, I don't want to be a naysayer, but at the same time, if I say yes to everything, we're not going to get where you want to go. And so if you know, I just sent you those priorities by Infotech, which are critical because all this stuff is moving at the same time. And how I like to say it is this: have you ever tried building airplanes in the sky? Have you ever tried washing a large bus or vehicle going down the road at 70 miles an hour? That's what it feels like today being a leader, is that you've got to step back and take a look at it and say, okay, if that car, I can only get one swipe at 70 miles an hour, how many times will it come around? So how do I divide the work up that's almost overwhelming to most IT departments today, and not cause them to lose hope, but to say, hey, we're going somewhere, but keep in mind, fundamentally, our IT shop is the best in the country. And so it behooves every good leader to have benchmarks. How do we know that we're thriving and surviving? I should say surviving first and then thriving amongst other peer institutions that we would consider our benchmark institutions. And I'm proud to say we are. We just did a study of 11 competitive schools in AI, and we're number one.
Come on, man. That's an accomplishment.
No, it's incredible, but here's what I want to challenge everybody with. Now, I didn't write that because somebody would say, hey, Mike wrote it. Of course, he's going to say he's number one. But the truth is, when AI goes out and looks at everything as evidence, it says it, not me. And so that's pretty cool to be able to say, but it's also cooler to be able to say, well, it has nothing to do with like, hey, we found a silver bullet, or we've got this magical vendor out there. It has everything to do with you've been doing the right thing step by step, precept upon precept. You did your Wi-Fi right, you did your network right, you're doing your operations right, and you're not going to get burned that way. But to be at the top is a challenge. But yet it's fun to be at the top at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. That's an accomplishment. You've got 6 buildings that you're working with. You've got the daily needs of users that need support. You've got all of these different projects going on in the different areas of the university, and you're moving them all forward. How do you keep your eyes on the big picture?
Yeah, the big picture really is always understand your mission, your vision, and make sure you know how to get there with leveraging technology. So I've been a fan of leveraging technology, using it transformatively for years, but I've never been a fan of people calling it disruptive. I get so frustrated. I'm at the United Nations speaking on behalf of higher education, and I say, I've never heard a more frustrating term by vendors than disruptive technology. Who in their right mind would sell something that would purposely disrupt a company, a campus, or thing? So I think how do we stay there is really don't buy into the hype, but yet understand where it may land. Be almost a forecaster of to say, how can we leverage something versus disrupt things? Because I don't work in an environment where people enjoy me using the word disruption.
Yeah. Definitely, Mike. I love that. And the idea of disruptive technology, I don't hear too many people talk about that. But in reality, that's our goal as a partner, to introduce solutions that work, make life easier, help our partners grow. But all too often we can be hasty in trying to introduce different types of technologies and things. I see a lot of people doing it, and it is causing disruption. So when you see people becoming early adopters or moving quickly with AI and introducing it to different areas of the university, what are the mistakes that you're seeing today?
Yeah, I think the common mistakes is trying to hear too many voices, right? Because, hey, we all represent, hear from marketing, we hear from operations, we'll hear from students, we'll hear from all kinds of different camps that have a vested interest in something. And that's all important. But if you can balance it and say, this go around, back to that concept of washing a big vehicle going 70 miles an hour, this go around, I'm going to be able to do this, but I can't do everything. And methodically, every iteration of something, you're going to make an improvement. That's incredibly important, right? Very seldom do I see successful CIOs or IT directors who risked everything, went with the latest grand network, went with the greatest this or that. Rather, I see them saying, okay, I get it. I wish I could go buy everything that's been advertised this week or this month. But the reality is you can't. And so you got to figure out, you better be listening to the right voices, not all the voices, but the right voices that help you and validate that in time you're making the right decisions. And so, go ahead.
I was going to say, how do you from your seat not buy into the hype? Because everyone is always shouting about the latest and greatest and what's shiny today.
Well, I think the best way is to realize everybody lives by selling something. So if I realize that I've got 3 network providers trying to sell me something, I got to realize, hey, they're making their living off it. Don't take offense, but yet don't buy everything in, and it may not be factual. So how can I do my homework with AI to find out if somebody claims that, let's make up the term, hey, all of a sudden there's a 5 or 6x improvement in Wi-Fi. Let me go check on that and find out if it's even true. Not spend a lot of time, but I don't want to be in the bleeding edge on everything. Maybe a few things, but not everything.
No, you brought up a good point, Mike. So you talked about security, right? And being on the bleeding edge and kind of taking a methodical approach. But security is one of those things, especially around cybersecurity, Michael, right? That, hey, we don't want to be on the bleeding edge as a CEO. I was in your seat before, local district here. And hey, with security, you want to be very methodical, very thoughtful, and very slow on making decisions that are going to impact students, right? And teaching, because at the end of the day, you're responsible for all the students, all their data, all your faculty's data at Oral Roberts University. So that's not an easy, small task, you know. You factor in AI where they're like, hey, Mike, we have this cool new AI dashboard. Can we connect AI to our ERP system? Can we connect AI to our student information system? Can we connect AI to our ACT grad, you know, where we get test scores? So those are things that I'm sure you're asked all the time, and you have to kind of be like, hey, let's pump the brakes. Let's vet this. Let's put some guardrails around this.
Oh, absolutely. So we're fortunate. Let's say it's already 4 years ago. I led the team that came up with an AI policy. Or, you know, because back 4 years ago, people are talking about AI ethics and just a bunch of flim flam, excuse my language, about ethics. And I said, hey, back up a second. Every student whose parent will borrow them the car, or maybe is able to buy a new car, has AI within the vehicle. Are we going to stop that vehicle from coming on campus because it has AI in it? No. And so let's not get carried away with AI ethics. Rather, let's have a policy statement of what we believe AI can and should be used for. And the first thing would be our president is saying, let's be real here, is that students who graduate from Oral Roberts University will be expected to use AI no matter which field they're in. So if we're hindering the ability to use AI, we're hindering their ability to be great employees that go out and impact the world. And so ORU is privileged to be able to say that we have a 99% placement rate with all our graduates. They either go to graduate school or they go into their place of study in a career, very successful careers at that. But it comes from getting the basics right, not trying to impress people with technology, but using it for what it was intended to be used for. And don't let that fool you. We've got some cool stuff happening too, but we're able to say, hey, this is some cool exploratory stuff. It's not full operational yet, and separate those two, because I lead the innovative area for ORU as well.
Yeah, I think it was over 10 years ago, but when was the GLC first opened?
The Global Learning Center opened 10 years ago.
So it was 10 years ago then when the GLC was open, and you guys were doing crazy things. There wasn't many other people doing this. You had engineering students who could take apart an engine. You had medical students who could take apart the pieces of an eyeball all in a 3D lab, or with just different types of things. And so I've always appreciated how you've been intentional to stay on the edge and stay in front of what's happening. But you've also, what I've appreciated is you've done it intentionally, but wisely.
Yeah.
I mean, you talked about, just being an innovator in this space, right? So, hey, I'm a heavy adapter and user of AI in my role here at Clearwind, supporting our sales team, engineering team, marketing team. Just this morning, we had a demonstration from our marketing team about how to use an AI tool to make some of our sales people's life easier. Yep. And so these tools are so great. To your point, a college graduate and a student has to know how to use these tools if they want to be marketable in today's current climate. And so why should we hold them back, right? We have to empower them. And that's what's so great about what you're doing at Oral Roberts. And it really excites me to know we have universities that are doing this framework for our young students. But can you break down what AI operations means and what makes it different from like chatbots, Mike, or AI assistants or artifacts? So when someone does AI operation, what does that mean?
So here's what I believe it means is that every entity that you're managing IT in is called an enterprise. It's got a starting point, it's got an ending point, and there's not a piece that is not tied to some form of data, a data table, or some analytics, right? And so if you're going to use AI operationally, it can't just be, hey, I improved something over in one area. 3 years from now, it may affect the other areas, but you didn't see it coming. But it may only be 3 months. And so an enterprise-wide is saying, how can we set a timeline across the entire enterprise and say, here's what we ultimately need to improve. So I think if people step back and they take a look and say, what is the number one operational thing that requires the most rework, requires the most time, and prohibits us from pleasing our customers, right? So those are 3 basics. And so we did that 2 years ago and said the number one thing is transcripts coming from high schools, other entities. How do we take that transcript, remove all manual entities that are approving it, and speed up? So we went from an 11-day on average transcript validator, which included a lot of human touch points, and turned it into 2.7 seconds, right?
Which is incredible.
From start to finish. And so that was good. But now keep in mind, there was probably 2 years of saying, this is our number one issue, this is our number one issue. And so when you start understanding the issue and you can document it through flow and say, yep, indeed, we can change things and improve things. And so that became our first success, right? So as the IT leader, if that was a failure, I'm going to have a hard time convincing anybody to do another AI operational improvement.
That's a great example, yeah.
So the key thing, and we've talked about this aspect of AI implementation many times, it's understanding your own workflows. It's understanding what are the problems that your users are having and how can I simplify this and make it to where it carries some of the burden and makes it easier for them.
No, that's huge. You know, Mike, you talked about exactly kind of what I'm doing internally in our role around AI. So
Yeah.
we have a director of development for application. And so James and I are working together daily, almost, Michael, on our AI framework for organizations to help them get to a point where Oral Roberts is right now. So, and it comes with investigation, right? You got to do a lot of thoroughness. Like you said, hey, what is our main issue? It's taking us 11 days to process transcripts. Now you got it down to 2.7 seconds. So you're saving thousands of hours. Now your, staff, the clerical staff at Oral Roberts can do more innovative things like, hey, what kind of classes do these students need? What kind of track do they have?
Now, what's important to note is that if I would have went to the executive cabinet or other parts of the campus and said, hey, we're going to put a chatbot in to help you, it's a negative versus we're going to improve the entire process. Now, little did people know we were going to put 6 bots behind that.
Yes.
So the key really is don't get lost in the language that put up fences. So as soon as you say chatbot, people have already a paradigm about that. Is that an AI agent? Is that agentic AI? Is that this or that? And just say, we're going to improve the process and wait for it to get done. Now, when it gets done, you have to be your own, what should I say, recorder of this. What I did right away, because I know there's always going to be naysayers to say, I don't think it improved it. So I did a video of the old process, video of the new process, and said, here's the time breakdown. Never. Yeah. And so you've got to own it like you've never owned anything before, because there's still, whether I work at Google or whether I work at a university or a high school, there's going to be naysayers. That's just the reality.
I think that's an awesome example. And I think the big picture is understanding the pain point that your users have. Yep. And then presenting the solution and what it is that's the answer to some of these problems in a way that speaks their own language.
I mean, and Mike, you kind of explained the whole process of how we should implement it. I mean, you walked us through like start to finish and your thoroughness and your investigation and so, what kind of access and capability does these tools need in your environment to achieve some operations in the AI, using AI?
Excellent point. So if it's truly going to be enterprise, your in-house team, if they did it, or your vendor is going to need full access almost to everything, or it's not fully truly across the enterprise. So we're back to the real challenge. Can you find a vendor who you've proven to respect, not just like, and trust with key things, right? And we're very picky about that. I mean, truth be told, in a perfect world, we could find one vendor that did everything for us. But the truth is they all specialize. Maybe some specialize in network, some specialize in the ERP, some specialize in AI. But truth be told, it's just risky. The more a vendor can own within your environment who you trust and respect, the better off you're going to be.
No, that's a great point that Michael just brought up, is because you have access to very, very critical data, social security numbers, address, demographic, test scores. I mean, pay, if an ERP system, pay skills, bank, routing numbers, account numbers. So there's a lot of very critical data, Michael, that when you want to do some AI operations, hey, I had a meeting with our VP of operations, and we're walking through some dashboards of how we could help and do some things internally. And I said, hey, I'm going to need the spreadsheet that you keep referring to. Well, on that spreadsheet is people's pay, their deductions. And I'm like, well, to make the data, we got to have that, right? And so to your point, I'm internal, so that's great. But from a vendor coming in saying, hey, I'm going to need all your financials at Oral Roberts, you're like, hold on a second. You haven't even ever logged in my network yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So in the big picture, how would you say AI architecture fits into higher ed, especially with all the moving pieces like what we've talked about already?
Sure. I mean, so there's many ways it's going to fit, but let me start at the highest level possible. I think anytime there's a technology like the smartphone, like the internet, now like AI, it gives the opportunity to reimagine the future, right? So anybody out there should be reimagining, what if this pans out and it's going to be as good as we think it will be. What does our future look like? How should we be changing? So that's the first step, because the truth be told, now the numbers are coming out that all this money people thought they're going to save with AI replacing people is not a reality. Okay.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And the price keeps going up in these AI platforms, right? So let's just take a campus our size. Right now, for us to get Microsoft, Gemini, Anthropic, Grok, pick your poison, if you would, pick your platform. It's about $300,000 request to give everybody access. Not every place is going to say, okay, 300,000, what does that really equate to? And what if it's the wrong platform? Who's going to be in business 2 years from now? So you really need to have a thinker out there to say, okay, I can think both sides of the coin. I want to see the best of everything with AI, but I've got to be realistic and say, I don't want to bring the organization down, nor do I want to take a risk that we don't need to take. Okay. And so you got to start at that level. Moving down the list, you can start helping employees, because I can't go to a place of employment today where if I said to everybody there, who feels overwhelmed at work today? Every hand goes up, right? The smartphone has never really bought us more efficiency, unfortunately. It's caused more work. And that's why it's like, hey, everybody who sold it as a disruptive technology is lying through their teeth. Every network company that's promised server consolidation has lied through their teeth. None of this stuff has been materialized. Now, how do I know that? Well, remember, I've got this position up here that I've got to be watching percentage spent on IT. So for 25 years, IT spend has never went down. All the server consolidation promises, all this promise has never materialized. But the same theory would be true of your smartphone. Better deals through T-Mobile, maybe AT&T, whatever you want to look at. At the end of the day, you're still spending the same. These companies have to make money. And so in order to start rationalizing this to say, okay, what are we really trying to achieve? One, efficiency gain, more customers, more client, better satisfaction, not reduction in workforce. That's like last. But people will always fear the worst first. Oh, they're trying to reduce me. They're trying to replace teachers. They're trying to do this or that. Years ago, let's say it's 5 years ago, I was invited to go to Bangalore, India, because a major scientist over there had discovered they can use robots to replace teachers. They come to Oral Roberts because we were using robots back then even. And he says, I'm going to replace all the teachers. And I said, General Ray was his name. He was the principal of this place. And I said, General Ray, listen, you may think that theoretically you can do that, but it'll never take place. And here's why. And I tell him why. So he invites me to come over and help them understand this. Here we are 8 years later, nothing happened, except a lot of research, because the truth be told is that any of these AI tools, network tools, isn't replacing a person at all. It's trying to replace and improve a system.
Correct.
That's the ultimate goal. So when you can depersonalize it, it helps everybody. I'm not taking it personal. My job isn't to do a cloud modernization project to reduce people. It's to really make our customers happier and keep us in business long term. So I like using the example of Amazon. Amazon has been using AI for years, and they have proven the more AI you use, the more employees you hire.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because why? Everyone's a prime customer. How did they get people to want to be a prime customer? Well, they leveraged logistics and the art of managing logistics very well. They pleased the customer. Now, can every university out there, every network company, customer say, I want to be a prime customer of yours. I love you so much. I respect you so much. I've got so much trust in you. You're my prime customer. That's where we really want to get to with leveraging the right tools. But here's the challenge. Let's say on our campus, which is true, we've got 67 different systems that I'm managing for a couple of years now. It's okay, but it's still a headache. Now, all of a sudden, imagine I've got 67 systems and 5,000 AI agents. I just changed my world. I almost cut my own throat by giving the promise of all these AI little nickel and dime things that look like they're going to improve something, but now they're in my environment and I've got to manage those. And I believe in the future, those of you listening may not know this, the first recorded case of somebody hiring a chief information officer was in the year 1980 by Boston Bank. Within 10 years, everybody needed a CIO. Whether they did or not, I'm not sure. Now, I believe the future of the CIO, it's been around since 1980. My title's not even that, even though I now own all those functions. I'm the global leader, vice president for global learning and innovation, which includes that function. So CIO role is just a function. So I think we're going to hit a day where we need AI maestros, somebody who understands systems well enough that it's like an orchestra of 5,000 AI agents, 57 systems, but which systems can ultimately be replaced or overridden or a wrapper put around, pick your method. But it's going to take somebody who's far more knowledgeable than, hey, I got my Microsoft certification, so therefore I'm a genius in technology. And, unfortunately, every CEO has cousin Louie or Freddie or Jane that took some kind of server SQL SQL training, and they all think they're an expert now. And that'll way out in the future. So, I mean, the need for top leaders has never been greater in IT.
No, I think you are spot on, Mike. I mean, when I was listening to him talk, Michael, about that, and it came to mind, remember back in, I've been in IT for over 25 years myself, started out as a network admin, network tech, PC tech, all this stuff, programmer, developer. So I've done the whole spectrum, right? Virtualization, data center. And when I started out, Mike, you had remember the network admins back in the day? Yeah. So, I mean, there was a person, you probably won't believe this, that all they did was create network logins, Michael. That was all their job. They were called the network administrator, and they got paid, very well. This was like early 90s. And I had buddies that were network admins. I was in college and graduating with a networking degree. Yeah. That's all they did all day was create user accounts and delete user accounts. That's all they did. I mean, now look at, that's one small function, to Mike's point, of like a help desk tier 1 person, that sets up your laptop, or, these roles have changed, and it's really incredible listening to you talk about how that's more. And I agree with your methodology about, I think we're going to be orchestrating these AI agents. Like I think about myself, I've created 4 or 5 internal tools, and I'm thinking, man, we're saving time. We're doing now. Hey, but it's just creating more work because now we're going to the next project. We're going to because now the speed of business, now we're able to do things much faster, deliver information much better to our customers. But hey, now what are we doing next? What so you got to have someone orchestrating those agents, like Michael talked about. I think for our listeners and viewers, I really want people to hone in on what he just talked about, because if you're at Oral Roberts right now and you're a student, I would learn every LLM. I would learn how to manage these agents. I would learn how to do the data dashboards, because that's going to be the role in 5 and 10 years, is managing all these agents to the desk.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So when you look at this, you say, wait a minute, how do I really step back, and could I, in my possibilities, see a better workforce that's not so stressed out? Could we orchestrate AI to that level? Because the truth is, everybody's worn out. Fatigue everywhere. And so that's my hope for AI one day, is that it actually is able to solve some of these big problems that we're struggling with without just going after the nickel and diming, another agent, another this. I spent my budget, it's gone. Instead of stepping back and say, what are we ultimately trying to accomplish? And it's frightful, because truth be told, these are $1 trillion companies now defining the future.
Yeah.
This isn't no longer IBM, Microsoft against Apple. Those days are gone. These are $1 trillion companies who are passing money amongst each other to build big data centers that may not even be needed. And there's a company down in Austin, Texas now called Black Swan. And they have proven, if it wasn't for Oracle, that the data centers wouldn't even be needed. But the throughput that required to manage an Oracle database and some of the other big databases requires those big data centers. And so it's like, wow, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out when $1 trillion companies are sort of winging it a little bit.
I read an article, Michael, just the other day, and I haven't shared this with you. I was going to talk about it, but in the state of Utah, they're building a huge data center, right? And it's in legislation and all this. This data center is an AI data center for large computing and processing. It's going to generate more power than the entire state of Utah right now. And they're trying to figure out how in the world are we going to put this in Utah? I mean, it's going to require what the whole state uses to and they have power issues already and water issues in Utah. And so to Mike's point, it is there's some concern around that, right? So there's some guardrails that have to be put in place, but these things are never going away. Like you said, these trillion-dollar companies are only growing, right? And so it's very interesting to hear your approach, because you're at a high level. You're seeing this.
So one thing that I can say I appreciate as well is I hear how, yes, we're having this conversation about AI and moving things forward. But what I also hear you talking about is understanding the mission and the vision and the purpose behind this. The whole purpose behind this is to help us and empower us to fulfill that mission of this organization, of Oral Roberts University. So I hear that clearly, and I can appreciate how there's no distraction from the shiny things. We're using these tools to help us fulfill that mission.
Yeah. I've often told people, maybe 5 years ago, and even today, even more so, the science of technology has been pretty much proven. Moore's law, how it increases and so forth, how you can hire almost any company to service things. But what's not been proven is the art of using it. So if you take the science and the art and start realizing, okay, wait a minute, how do we artfully use what is available? Not always free, of course, but at the same time, let's test at the right time and then roll over at the right time. So it's really how do I take and be innovative and realistic at the same time. It's not easy, but you still need both.
No, Mike, I think you're spot on. And I remember 5 and 10 years ago, the big thing, Michael, was 1-to-1, right? In K-12, especially in K-12 and in higher ed, it's a little different because they provide, they want a student to have their own device. But now you don't really hear the 1-to-1 as much. It's kind of, they're going to carts and labs and different things because we're learning that we can't just stick a piece of technology in a student's hand and expect magic things to happen. Yeah. So just in closing, Mike, if a listener wants to take one practical step, right? Like, hey, you know what? Mike at Oral Roberts has blown me away and I am fired up. I want to go home. I want to do this in my organization. If they want to take one practical step, what should they do to implement some AI?
Try and figure out what your board is looking for, right? Have an ear to hear and be in alignment with them. But it won't be far off your mission and vision. So if you can find what is that one thing that allows our board to believe we're doing something cool, which is very easy to do with AI, but then what operational thing did we improve that really makes people believe we know what we're doing, we've got a handle on all our systems, and we can do end-to-end AI implementation if we want to, and so forth. So that'd be my number one recommendation. Open your ears and be in alignment with your boss, your boss's boss, and then the shareholders, which more than likely is a board of something, board of trustees or governing board, whatever the case may be. And don't listen. Now, remember, you do that, then all these vendors down here, talking to you, it's like, okay, yeah, I get it. But the fact is, what helps me with my board, when I can find a vendor like Clearwinds and say, hey, they get what our board wants. And it's not just because Michael worked at ORU for 10 years, it's because they get it, they've listened, and they're in alignment as well.
So, and I appreciate that. I think one of the biggest things really overall is us from a partner seat is just like what we're talking about a minute ago with mission, vision, and how we can see you, Mike, championing that. Our goal as a partner is also to understand what is the mission of our partners, what's their vision. So it's not just a project for us. It's helping understand how whatever solution, whatever it is we're talking about, can be positioned to help you as well fulfill your organization's own mission. And that's part of what we do. That's why we do it.
That's fantastic. And Michael, you in closing, you talked about one thing numerous times is not implementing the wrong tool to create more issues, right?
Yeah.
Basically, summing up what he was talking about is like, hey, and I think that's where, we do good at Clearwinds is really partner with our customers, right? We want to understand what they need, how they're growing, what they're looking like in 5 and 10 years. But the worst thing we could do is implement something that's going to make your life more difficult and then make your stakeholders' lives more difficult. And then no one's happy, right? Yeah. And I've seen that in AI. And that's, I think that's where your approach is. I've loved this episode, to be honest with you. I've done a lot of podcasts in my life. This has been a great episode. I'm going to go back and listen to this myself, just because some of the things Michael talked about, I think, are really groundbreaking in this methodology and approach. And so, man, we can't thank you enough for being on our show today. I think our listeners and viewers are going to love hearing about some of the agentic, some of the AI operations, and what you're doing at your university globally, not just there. So, hey, on behalf of Clearwinds and the IT Directors Podcast, we are so thankful you came on. And to all our listeners and viewers, go check this episode out. Go follow us. Go check out Michael at Oral Roberts University. Go follow him. I'm sure he puts some great content out on social media. I'm sure he's on some of the platforms. So we appreciate you so much. And as always, thanks for joining the show. Hey, thanks for joining us today on the IT Directors Podcast. We're so glad you joined us. Look, go follow us on all social media platforms. The IT Directors Podcast, powered by Clearwinds. And look, if you want more information, check out our website, clearwinds.net. We're going to have show notes, special guest bios. We're going to have reels. Our marketing team has done a fantastic job. Go check this out. We're so thankful that you joined us today.